Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Guitar Crate. I'm TJ, and today, while I have this guitar apart and we're going to be doing some other projects to it, I just thought I'd put together a quick video for you about deglossing a neck. So something that comes up very often. This is something I do to all of my guitars if I haven't made them, because if I make them, I make them with a satin neck. But for all my guitars I've purchased that have come with gloss necks, I go through and I, matte finish it and take away the gloss so that the neck doesn't get sticky in the middle of my set. This is something that way back when I was just starting out and I got my first apprenticeship gig, this was something we did for a customer, and ever since I've been hooked. So it's actually really quick, it's really easy, it's a simple thing to do. The hardest part is the prep, just to make sure that it looks nice and you don't leave any funky marks. What I want to start with is a disclaimer. Number one, if you have a Gibson, if you have anything with a lacquer finish, this does not apply. If you have a lacquer, it's a different kind of finish altogether, and it's something that is going to wear over time anyways. The best advice I would actually give you for that kind of a guitar is to just keep playing it, and repetition will smooth it out. When you have a polyurethane, any import, when you have a guitar like a PRS SE, when you have a guitar like an import LTD or a Schecter, one of the common ones is like any Mexican made Fender. I can't remember if it's the FSRs, the Fender Special Runs. They always kind of make them a little nicer, do a couple of color cosmetics to them, and I can't remember if it's that one or the other one, but the standard one or the FSR, but they'll also gloss the back of the neck. So in that case, if you don't like that but you want the special color, this is what you would do. If you already have a satin finish neck, then this is not going to improve anything. This is only going to take away the gloss on the back of the neck that makes it sticky. And disclaimer number two is, if you're not sure you're going to keep this guitar, if this is a guitar you might trade, if this is a guitar that you are, that you're vested into for a high price point or anything like that, you may not want to do this, just because if you modify the guitar, especially in something like this where there's no going back, you may change the value of the guitar in some way that will affect you. This guitar I picked up at the perfect price. I'll never sell it just because it's price to own, and so doing all this stuff for me is just making it fun for me to play. I'm not worried about the value I may or may not get when if I were to sell this. So if you have any inkling or any thought that you might sell this guitar that you're thinking about working on, this may not be the right thing to do to modify it, because this is a permanent modification. With that being said, I have seen it work as a bonus. There was one guitar I had where I reshaped the back of the neck and I reshaped it and did this, so it was a little bit heavier, but the person liked the job that was done and thought the neck was better than normal, so they paid the money for it and I didn't actually have to take a hit. But I've done it before where someone's like, well, you screwed with the guitar, sorry. But in that case they just didn't want it, or at least they didn't want it at that price. So those are little things to take into account. I don't want to see somebody do this, decide they want to sell the guitar, and then lose hundreds of dollars in value because the client or the person looking to buy the guitar does not like the way this was done. To get us started here, I've got the two cameras set up, so I'm going to bring you over here, and I'm going to, from about here to here, I'm basically going to take the shine off the guitar right around for basically where I'm playing. So where I would be here like this, that is the part I am going to take off. Alright, so to do this job, you're going to need three things. You're going to need four things. I don't know how many things you're going to need. You're going to need a couple of things, but not a lot. You want blue painter's tape. The reason why you want the blue painter's tape is because this will stick to the guitar, but it won't rip the finish off or damage the finish while it's on the guitar. Especially because you should have it on the guitar for no longer than, in this case, 20 minutes to a half hour. It's not going to be very long. The other thing you need is sanding blocks. So anything that's flat and square, a must-have. I personally have this little, we call them nuggets, and this nugget is it's got a flat side and then it's got the rounded up side for kind of getting into stuff, but it's nice and tiny. This is what we use for our detail work. So I would use this here, I would use this here, and getting into this whenever I'm doing finish work on a guitar. And this serves so many useful purposes. They're awesome. And I try, when you get one you like, you try and hold on to them. But these are always homemade. Sometimes you can get a professional sanding block, but really, if you just take a block and make sure that it's flat, and actually sand this against a flat surface of a table or something to make sure that you've got, perfect square, right angles. That's important, because the whole point when you're going through you don't want to change the shape of anything. If you do, you can. That's a different video. And if you want to see that video, write some comments. That is something I do to all of my guitars, almost all my guitars. This guitar, actually, the neck is so smooth and sleek and thin, and it's also like real thin right in here in the width. I actually have been very impressed with this guitar. Alright, so those two things. Oh, and then we need, I had it here. There's a small piece. Here is the big piece. We need sandpaper, but we need 400 grit. This is usually a little hard to get at Home Depot, but you can get it at Home Depot. By default, I just use 3M. Other brands are good too. I just happen to always, like when I am at Home Depot and they have 400, it's always 3M that they have. If I order from StewMac, pretty sure anything I ever get from StewMac is always 3M, or it's their brand. But 400 is the important part. This one specifically is for wet or dry, it doesn't matter. And then there's also, this is also 400, and this should be 3M. Yeah, it's 3M, I can see it through here. But this is, as you can see in a roll, this is actually sticky back. So this will stick to the block that I'm sanding. Wow, this is, there we go. So this is going to stick. In some cases I'll use this. In this case I'm not, just because this is such a simple, easy job. But the sticky back is like, I wouldn't be able to operate a guitar shop if I didn't have sticky back paper. So I'm just cutting this now, but you'll need a piece about that big. Alright, so nugget, block, tape, sandpaper, and quadruple steel wool. Also must have. Alright, so the first things first, I want to make sure that I tape this off in a way that, one, helps it look like it was done on purpose, and two, make sure that I get as much of the area that I want sanded. So now that this is done, I'm going to come up here to the top, and the top's a little bit trickier, because I'm going to make sure, as you can see here, I'm going to make sure that I'm lined up over, actually I'm going to do it a little bit more. So you'll also notice one of the most important things I do here is I double tape everything that I'm working on, because when the sander hits the lip, You want there to be a good bump. You know, you want to know you're at the end of the border. So I'm actually going to do this one up here a couple times. You will run into it, you will hit it. That's part of the plan, is you're going to hit it and it's going to stop you. Alright, so we are prepared. We have a nice smooth glossy surface. Everything's taped. And the easy part's actually the sanding. So first of all, the most important thing with the, you don't want to be having the actual edge of the block not have the sandpaper. You also don't want to have too much, because then this bends, increases, and then it's no longer flat. You want it to come right to the edge, right like that. And then, just for my comfort's sake, really what you're trying to do is you're just trying to scratch the surface. So the most important thing is it's just a nice light, and you can see that line's already there. Alright, so that's the basic idea to this. We're going to do it in a couple stages, but when I do this right here, I typically start right here on the edge, like I'm doing right now, just because it's like doing the detail work, cutting in when you paint. Before you paint the side of the wall, you get all the corners. Okay, but when I do this, I'm not putting any, there's no pressure. This is just nice, simple, right up to the edge. Now all this white dust that you see, that's actually the clear coat. We're not going through the clear coat. This is 400 paint, or 400 sandpaper. It's just not, there's not enough grit to do anything substantial. And that's the idea, is you want it to stay smooth. You just don't want to have the gloss. And fun fact for anyone who didn't know, if you get a guitar that has a satin finish, chances are it's about a 400, at most an 800 grit sandpaper. So really all they're doing is not taking the extra steps to buff everything out. Alright, so you'll see here as I hold this, the neck, I'm going to do long, smooth strokes. Again, there's no pressure in any of this. I'm also going to make sure I hit the frets right up to the side. Now in another situation, if I was to deal with like a fender or something like that, the one thing I can tell you is if you have a bolt-on neck, just take the neck right off. Take the neck off, sand it. You don't have, you have way more flexibility. You're not getting in the way, bumping into yourself. So after you go this way, and I go this way, and now I'll do a couple of circles, especially along the sides here. As I slow it down just so you can see what I'm doing. And you can see right now it doesn't look pretty. And that's okay. Remember, you're not shaping anything. So you want just a nice light touch. You don't want to dig through. You don't have to do it like this. I'm going to take some naphtha here. And a paper towel. So I can kind of see where I'm at. It's kind of like when you get a cut and you're bleeding all over the place. And then once you wipe the blood away, you realize it's a really, really small cut. So now that I get rid of all the dust, and the big thing is, as I said, this is naphtha. This is naphtha, not water. So it's already lost It's already lost the stickiness now. It feels fantastic. Ultra smooth, ultra fast. Just there's no friction. But you can see right now, it does look kind of crummy. It doesn't look nice. It doesn't look well. It doesn't look like a finished job. And that's really what this is about, is finishing the job. So, for that, I always go to my trusty nugget. I may hit a couple angles here where you can't see very well. I apologize. And here it's a little more consistent. It's not all spotty and somewhat glossy and somewhat not glossy and all that kind of stuff. If you want a cool fun fact, you see right here, there's this one spot going down here. Not bad, but there's a couple of spots, especially in this area, when I go flat with the block and I go over here, and then there's a line. I don't know if the camera can see it because the light's hitting it right here for me, but there's a line right here, and that line basically is telling me that when you go over this with a flat block, that wasn't a flat spot. We take for granted how smooth our guitars are and how much we think has been done with them. They're perfectly flat, they're perfectly level, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, right here again, when I go across or even go like this, and then all of a sudden there's a spot right here, it's telling me that whoever did sand it, or whoever machine sanded it, if they're at that point yet, whatever they did in this finishing process, they didn't get it flat or perfectly round. There's little grooves and ridges and stuff. Unfortunately, those are the things in the industry. Once you know too much, there's no going back. So you can see what's going to be nice here is I'm going to have a nice straight line when this is all done to say, okay, that's the finished edge. And then it looks it's two things. One, it looks intentional. Two, it makes sure you don't have some weird scratch. You get one random weird scratch and scuff in the finish, and that's all she wrote. All right, perfect. Okay, so two things. One, I'm going to take this quadruple steel wool. I'm going to take the steel wool, I'm going to go over this whole spot. And eventually I'm going to do the frets too, just to clean it up before I restring it. But this is going to smooth everything out for me. And I just hit this nice, and I give it a little push because it's not going to do anything crazy. A fraction of what the 400 was. But because this isn't a flat block, any of those spots that were still a little bit off, it helps take that away, and see it's starting to come together pretty nicely. I'm going to get up here in these corners and spend a little more time. And it's almost like it's a light buff. Pretty much everything you see here, all the dust, is actually the steel wool. Oh man, this thing's gonna be amazing! I'm like getting excited about something. Alright. So if I give it one more dab just to... The nice thing about the naptha is it's not water, so you don't have to worry about it damaging the wood or anything like that. But what it also does is it gets rid of the dust and just kind of lightly works the finish. This is the main ingredient, if not only ingredient, in Gooby Gone. So you pay $15 for a little thing like this big of Gooby Gone, or you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up a thing of naphtha for a couple bucks. Alright. So now it's tape time. There we go. That looks good. So that's the part that I like about taking the extra time to tape, is you see how right here you've got a pretty smooth line. Not perfect. And there's no bump here or anything like that. There's no bump here because all we did was just really scuff the edges of it. We just knocked it down. We didn't actually like level or plane anything apart. We didn't like, you know, dig into it. We're just scratching the top. And now you can see now it looks real pretty. Nice and simple, but now it's just plays like butter. Oh, and then the last thing I always do, any polish will do. You know, you got your where is it? Got your Dunlop 65. I got the Carnauba wax, the blue one too. I got my Music Nomad somewhere around here. This is the EF101. There's more of them around. Any polish will do. This guy right here, this is 3M Imperial Hand Glaze. This is for cars. And, well, this is car paint. So, surprise, anybody who hasn't thought about it, if you think, or if you remember, Fender and DuPont have always had a good relationship. Fender used to always paint or be able to paint custom any strap color you wanted, or telly, any color you wanted to match a car or anything like that. It's because they're using the same polyurethane type stuff as cars are. That's why, like, these, you know, LTDs, and I mean, that's why they look so nice and they last so long, and it's like armor. These things are tanks compared to the lacquer. So with that being said, as nice as all the guitar products are, I use the car. I'll go into Levine Automotive. That's our local. I don't know how big they are, but I'll go in there or to another place that will have you know, polishes and waxes, Meguiar's, 3M, stuff like that for cars, and I'll use them on guitars. Fun little plug, Music Nomad. Mr. Rand, he started doing this because he was in the auto business. He did finishes for, you know, cars, and it was funny because I knew Mr. Rand before Music Nomad because my uncle would use him for his guitar, or for his, you know, Corvettes and stuff. He would use those products because they were the nicest products you can get for taking care of your car. And so now that they use Music Nomad, you know, it was taking guitar work up to the next level. But the reason why it was such an easy transition is because it's all the same stuff. So this guy right here, this is just a guitar polish. This is a glaze, hand glazed guitar polish. It's just a little more heavy duty. It's like the absolute last step before you take your guitar and give it back to the customer. This is what I will use if there's like a lot of junk on the, a lot of gunk and skinch and whatever you want to call it. But this is literally, it's a cream, and it's not an abrasive. This isn't a, I guess it's a hand glaze. It's after the compounds. Like, you do the compounds, fine compound, and then the final one is, this is like just the hand polish that goes on it afterwards. And really it's just, it's a deeper than deep clean. So I'm going to give that a second to soak. But you can see here, there's still a line, but it's, it's just brought a little bit of the looks back without making it glossy again. Now, on a side note, if you're like, oh, I hate this, and you wanted to make your neck glossy again, you can. It's just not easy and it's not cheap. But you would basically just buff this out with the different compounds until you got back to a gloss, hoping you didn't burn through the finish and hit the wood. But we'll do some close-up pictures and stuff like that after. But here you go. Here is the finished product. So it is a little extra shiny right now than normal. You can see, you can barely see, ooh, there's some tape. You can barely see the line here because I did it right with this. And then when you come up here, you can see the line before I buffed everything out. But it still looks nice. That's really just my fingers, and I will probably do one more thing of the regular wax, just to, or not regular wax, but regular guitar polish, just to get this. Alright. So, and then after the compound, or no. Alright, so if you can see from here, there's still a little bit of the gloss to matte finish right there. You can see where it changes hands. But as a whole, like I said, doing some extra work, so you'll see that. But on the back of the neck, it still looks nice. You can barely see the line here, even close up. It almost is not there. And the wood still looks nice. You can still see all the grain, but this is it's not going to catch. It's not going to bite on you. It's going to feel really nice and really smooth. Alright guys, that's how you do the back of your neck in a satin finish like a pro. And I hope you had fun today. Thank you again for spending some time with me, and I'll see you next time. Until then, subscribe to greatness.